Hello, and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast channel. My name is Jed. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing? I hope you're doing great because we are at the end, or close to the end, of this amazing dialogue. One of the greatest dialogues ever written, some are saying. One of the most important books ever written. Others are saying. So, our last episode was a absolute fire, another banger, another one. We went through some key aspects of what we've learned about the difference between it's all relative and philosophy, or the functioning of belief and the functioning of understanding. And we created a mega analogy. What does that mega analogy do? Well, for us, it does a few things. It allows us to collect all of the important aspects of the book so we can nail them down in our own understanding. Reading the book. But reading isn't just a matter of collecting parts. We can see how those parts are organized within that analogy. In other words, the analogy begins with as belief functions through understanding, so too understanding, sorry, that doesn't make sense. As belief functions through interpretation, so too understanding functions through what? Critical thinking? Reasoning? Dialectic? So by, let me just fix my limiter a little bit. I think it's kicking in a bit too strong. Let me just see how that is. Okay, I think that one's a bit better. Actually, no, let's go back. So, right, I think it's fine. So, we can see how those parts relate to each other. In other words, interpretation is the functioning of belief. Debate is how that plays out in relationships or in dialogues, just as dialectic plays out critical thinking of understanding. So we can see the relationship between the parts. We can also see the relationship across the analogy. In other words, we can understand how and why specifically beliefs are the root cause of our problems. And by tracing it through its functioning within the analogy, we can see why it's the cause of our problems when we rule our soul according to our beliefs. Our beliefs about what's good, what's worth doing, what we are, what the self is, what reality is. If any of those is belief and we are following it, we can see why it ruins us, causes our problems. We can see why it makes you a dick in conversations like Harry. We can see why it destroys relationships, why it brings death and destruction across our planet if we let belief rule our society. To be the groups defined by the pathologos or by belief, religion, conservatism, capitalism, the big three. No expertise, only personal beliefs, and they only ever do harm. Isn't that fascinating? Why doesn't one capitalist billionaire solve world hunger? Why is it only harm? Well, we can see the functioning of sadism, or sadism as the ideal state of knowing. We can understand why these groups are always sadistic, why they always only seek harm. So we can understand the key aspects, we can understand how they function, and we can understand the equivalent within the other terms. So for example, we can see why belief is the cause of problems, and we can see how it would be, how our excellence is different. What should we be doing in relationships? What should we be demanding of our politicians, spiritual authorities, and those who govern our institutions through having all the wealth and owning all the resources? We should demand understanding. Why is that? You can even create your own analogies. What would it be like if a surgeon functioned through understanding compared to a surgeon through belief? How does imitation play a role? So we can have all of these aspects that bring together the key terms of the book, show their relationships within the whole and with the other system. So of the two basic functions that human beings can think through, perceive through, guide their lives through, seek their highest excellence through, seek the goals of their life through, there is belief and there is understanding. One is bad, one is good. So that's what it allows for us to do. But there's another thing that it does. It allows you to see the missing pieces. In creating an analogy to bring together the parts of the book, you might see how there is something within belief that's given, beliefs functioning in relationships, let's say, that isn't given in the book for understanding. Is there an ideal loving relationship presented between the characters in the book? Or is it only hinted at? Therefore, creating an analogy to bring together the parts of the book shows you the missing pieces. Those missing pieces are the puzzles for you to solve. That's your quest. But there's another thing that it does. By bringing together all of these things within a massive analogy, you have the material to do a dialectic. A dialectic on belief and a dialectic on understanding. Why is that significant? Well, haven't we seen that the path to our excellence, the one spiritual method, finding a nice way to sit on this chair. The one educational method, the singular method or model of education and spirituality, that which transforms us, not just informs us, but transforms us, that's the dialectic. So it's all well and good to discover that in the text, but hey, if you don't do it yourself, aren't you missing out? Do you want to miss out? In other words, it'd be a poorly written book if it didn't give us the opportunity to do the very thing that it says we should be doing, right? So now we have all the material to arrange within the dialectic structure to nail it down in our own understanding. We can remember it and communicate it with our friends, practice it, find friends who are also have a love of understanding, who desire to make themselves or the world a better place. So have some sort of meaningful goal for themselves that they want to reach, that they would therefore want to discover, play the game, become curious. Find those who share a love of understanding and wonder with you, and you can practice your dialectic. You get to nail down your understanding. They get to learn something new. You get to test your understanding of the ideas that you've nailed down, but also you are both engaged in a shared focus on a single idea over an extended period of time, and it's a meaningful idea with your highest vision and understanding. That's formally meditation. Ticks all the boxes of meditation. And ticks all the boxes that other meditative practices don't have, because no matter what other one you pick, it will be lacking the logos, lacking the dialectic, lacking the understanding, making this the primary or the archetype of spirituality. So you're practicing your understanding, you're helping your friend, and you're both focused on a mean term. There's you, there's your friend, and there's a shared focus that you can share. That dialectic that you're sharing. Notice, this is different from debate, where you are attacking your opponent, or threatening your opponent, or bombing your opponent, or saying that they're woke, or a goyim, or an infidel, or a heathen or a heretic or any of these words that attack the person. That's gossip. That's the functioning of belief that only causes division and sadism. What you want to do is have someone with a shared focus on a higher ideal. That's what we were discovering as the ideal relationship. Not fighting and manipulating, using language to lie or scam or rhetoric to convince or get into fights to distract from reason and evidence on a higher shared ideal, but to actually share a focus through understanding on that shared transpersonal ideal. It extends beyond the personal. It's true. It's eternal. It's something you can experience directly, turning your focused attention or meditation into contemplation. That's the spiritual yoga that can awaken a higher state of being, experience of reality, or state of consciousness. That's the transformative. That's the transpersonal. So whenever somebody is telling you to focus on groups, who's the enemy? Who's the woke? Who's the trans person that you hate? Who's the immigrant that you hate? They are fucking with you. They are functioning in an unjust way to distract you from your actual purpose, understanding, not physical world understanding. We saw that's actually a shadow of dianoia. A physical understanding where you can do scientific understanding on the parts without knowledge of the whole. Therefore, you don't know whether you should do nuclear energy, but you can, so you do. You don't know whether you should do mass AI surveillance, but you can, so you do. You don't know whether you should make cars that fueled by fossil fuels that are destroying the planet, but you can, so you do. So no concern for the whole or the ideal or what's good or what's beneficial. All you are doing is imitating the expertise of nature and intelligence by tinkering with the parts. So you're still in the realm of shadows, still in the realm of imitation. So we don't mean that kind of understanding. We mean dianoia, understanding on what that which is the causes of the physical world, the principles, the universal principles that we can universally share and universally apply to universally benefit. The archetype of what true rulership would be. A surgeon uses the universal principles of the healthy body to universally apply them to benefit all his patients. Unlike religion, capitalism, and conservatism, they don't pick a group and say, no, I'm going to use different medical rules. One rule for thee, one rule for me. I want to harm you for my profit. Never, ever happens. So we can understand, therefore, that true understanding, dianoia, is on a transpersonal objective ideal like belief itself, understanding itself, beauty itself, or beyond those things themselves, the word self to indicate the substantive or noun, the self. So that's the even higher level of focus. So a shared focus on a shared ideal through which the two extremes, you and your beloved, or you and your friend, or you and the friends in the coffee shop, can have a shared focus on that to come together. So that's the third thing the analogy can do. What can it do? Bring together the parts, highlight the missing parts for the puzzles that you can solve, but also you can do a dialectic on that you can share with your friends. But as we are discovering, that's not enough. Doing the dialectic is the understanding part. But there's that whole other section, the belief part. Yes, you can do a dialectic on belief, and you should. But let's remember, what have we been discovering all the way through this? Truth ain't enough to transform you. It's truth and humanness. In other words, as you practice this dialectic, understanding the ideal, the human functioning, human excellence, human justice, you have to anticipate the counter-attacks from your belief. If truth were enough, we wouldn't have those systems of injustice sweeping death and destruction across our land. We wouldn't have our problems. We would have just listened to Socrates. But we killed Socrates instead. Why? Because the human problem is that because of our stage of development, we play the A game, we play the belief game. We have to learn understanding. You don't have to learn anything for belief, you just copy the shadow. You live in the realm of shadows, the shadow realm, perchance. You have to learn understanding and you have to practice it, and ideally with friends. It's not a solo quest. It can be hard to find those people, but you may find them on this channel, who knows. So, we have to anticipate the beliefs, the unsuspected false beliefs that keep us chained to belief. All those things that we have defined as the human problem keep us savages. Why savages? Because you're fighting violently against the goodest part of reality. You're fighting against understanding. You're fighting against those people who participate and love understanding. Primitive. Why primitive? Because you're fighting against your own interests. Wisdom is amazing and profound and helps you and everyone. So why would you rather defend belief? I've got a right to religion. I've got a right to vote for Donald Trump. I've got a right to lick Elon Musk's boots. I've got the right to have slaves. Why would you defend your own sickness when wisdom and a world governed by wisdom would be 1,000,000,000,000 times better? That's primitive. So you are cosplaying also the knower. You don't know, but you get a nice kick out of pretending to know shit you don't. So a primitive savage cosplayer, but also you're in an NPC script. You're repeating the very shallow amount of reasoning within the accepted belief tribe. So you're on a kind of a script that keeps you chained to fate. And within that script, you can only think in a very narrow way. You can only say a few narrow catchphrases that you're imitating, and you can only reflect on yourself so long as you are keeping alive your false images. So like a zombie, they can only reflect on themselves enough to walk ahead and use language, a shallower pool of language to say brain. So a primitive, savage, cosplaying NPC zombie virus that affects us. Why virus? Because it has us. We don't have it. If we knew what our pathologos beliefs were, we wouldn't willingly accept it. So we have to anticipate that humanness. And in the texts, remember that Joseph says, while I am learning the dialectic, and he's demonstrating it very, very well in this book, there is a higher functioning called philosophical midwifery, where I could be more receptive, more aware of those human counterattacks. Maybe I pursue truth so hard that I forget the human negative reaction to truth, understanding, and benefit. So Harry is getting mad at me. Yes, Harry's the one with the problem. Harry's the one being the dick. But Joseph is the one learning to understand why humans have problems. And so he's saying, hey, I could learn more about how to communicate this in a way that is more easy for people to be receptive to, or anticipating more the counterattacks, the humanness side. What we've been seeing is, while our highest functioning, evolutionarily speaking, is the capacity for self-reflection, that's ousia, and our capacity to do that through language or reason or dialogue, that's the logos. It's those two things that allow us to participate in the highest aspects of reality. And the skill that employs those two things is the dialectic. Self-reflection through structured questions and answers following reason and evidence or experience. But the higher role of the higher functioning of the dialectic is to keep in mind, well, that's true, that's the same. You should be able to repeat the same dialectics on the same ideas. So whether you're talking to your friend or Bob Smith or some guy in a different country or some girl in a different planet, you should be able to follow the same script, or not, I won't use the word script, the same steps of reflection on these ideas, these transpersonal universal ideas. But That's the sameness, remember? What have we been learning through the text? That someone who's an expert, like a surgeon, can relate to sameness, not in imitation. That's what belief can do. They can only repeat the sameness of things they see, repeat the same surgery, that's all. But the sameness the surgeon relates to is the model of the healthy body. For us, the model of these eternal ideas, mind or self, or understanding, or cognitive functions, all of these things. So that would be the dialectic, but what can the surgeon relate to that believers can't? Differences. The surgeon can't, the imitator of the surgeon can only do the surgery. So he can't discover whether or not he should, or whether or not that person needs surgery, or whether the changes in that person's body make a difference. And if he can't do surgery, maybe there's someone else who could help them. All of these things we can take under our consideration for what it means to be a dialectician. Not a dialectician, a midwife. To use the dialectic relative to the specific person that you're talking to. Not what are the differences in their body, but what are the differences in their mind or psyche or soul. How open are they to this idea? How blocked are they? What's the kind of false belief, pathologos belief that blocks them? How long have they been carrying a question? How long have they been in this game? How intelligent are they? All of these things come into play when it comes to whether or not you should engage in a dialectic and what kind of dialectic. In other words, are they ready to give birth to their ideas? And we saw the human purpose is to give birth to two different kinds of ideas, which means we have to become impregnated with two different lots of balloons. Celebrate this with balloons. Hooray. We have to become pregnant with two different sorts of questions. Questions about beliefs and our own specific belief that blocks us, and questions about understanding and our own specific ideas about understanding mind and self. That's 1, 2, 3. The one, self. The two, mind, intelligence itself, or two aspects, self participating in being or self participating in ousia. That's why it's an experience. Even though the experience is a oneness, there has to be two aspects. There has to be something experiencing it. And of course, 3, understanding. You, your friend, and the shared focus. That's what we can participate in mind. So there's our 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. We have a sound drop for it.
Goon, 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 goon.
No, not goon, goon, goon. But
it's a win, win, win.
No, this one.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. There's our 1, 2, 3. The 3 kinds of things that that are transpersonal, that we are here to reach through excellence. Self, oneself, 2, mind, and 3, understanding. So, we can anticipate our own specific counterattacks and realize that's the kind of question we want to be giving or becoming curious about, becoming stung about, becoming pregnant with. So, as we do the dialectic on our mega analogy, we can surface our problems. Take notes. We have to collect all the clues before we can put the puzzle together and solve our problem that we're here to solve. So let's put this on the board. No, that's not the board. Here we go. So this is what we did last episode, and I recommend you check it out. It was a fire banger, another one. Look. As belief is to understanding, or as the root and nature of all human problems are to the nature and cause of human excellence, our purpose, the meaning of life, and our highest goals. So too, belief is to understanding. The A option we have to make sense of things through time, or the B option. as belief is to understanding, so too interpretation is to critical thinking. When you presume or declare that your own personal dumb opinions have any validity, my perspective is true because I'm a realist, or because of School of Hard Knocks, or because of common sense, you are saying that knowledge or truth is all relative to the interpreter. So that's the title of the book. When we say everything is relative, or we're all entitled to our own opinions, we're saying truth is to do with belief, which is actually defending the root nature and cause of all human problems. It's a sickness. It's the sickness. Whereas somebody engaged in understanding would say that truth and knowledge of that truth is transpersonal and universal. It's not an us versus them. It's open to all who want to discover what's there to be seen. Therefore, we can go through all, why not? Let's do a quick review. Let's read it out. Might as well. So somebody's living the life of A, living the life of human sickness, who hasn't yet woken up to what we are learning here. So hooray for us. And hooray for anyone you tell about what we do here and the books that we're reading. Anyone who is not in that, their life goal is to fundamentally save the beliefs they get from others. So beliefs from generations and generations ago, idiots in the past, whether it's Moses or Paul or Abraham or whoever the fuck, you get them in your upbringing. Your job is to save them. They're not understanding, they're somebody else's problems, beliefs. To save them by making up stories that link them to your own personal beliefs. So if you've ever seen those Instagram reels or YouTube videos where it's some rational person debating a religious person, they'll pick a topic, let's say whether or not Noah existed. And every single different Christian will have their own way of saving that story. Or whether slavery is good. Or whether women are less than men and are fundamentally cattle to be abused. It says so in the Bible. How can you save that? Everyone has their own different way of saving their beliefs that they grow. So no religious person is the same, because the way Fred saves slavery or sexism is different from the way Barry saves it, or the way some pick-me woman says, "Oh, I am a less than a man because the Bible says so." So that's hermeneutics, to save the bullshit that you grow up with by tying it to your own personal beliefs. That's interpretation. You have to add what isn't there, project what isn't there, and be blind from what is. Whereas the actual goal of human beings who have woken up to their purpose, so awakening philosophy, is to surface, understand, and purify yourself from those beliefs that all other people are trying to defend and save savagely, violently, primitively, etc. But there's a second functioning of understanding to perfect our understanding as well. So it's to purify what's false and perfect what's true. While believers try to convince others of their beliefs and of their expertise and knowledge by manipulating others through appearances and imitation of people who appeared knowing themselves, so copying their parents or their pastor or their politician or their Elon Musk or whoever they're imitating, this works best on the ignorant. The more ignorant of a subject, the more likely these scammers, believers, can convince others of their expertise. Whereas understanding can benefit others and yourself, but it requires the work, it requires understanding. That's actual expertise. That requires you to explore together meaningful ideas. So it's not me over the other person. By the way, as you can see, there are lots of different ideas we've brought together here, but you can expand them out. For example, convince and manipulate people. You could create another term within belief yourself, evidence and reason. How do believers fight to block reason or distract with gossip and culture war bullshit or ad hominem personal attacks? How do they relate to evidence and reason? Compared to, how does understanding relate to evidence and reason? Explore ideas meaningfully together compared to, we could unpack that and say, well, believers are always us versus them. Hierarchical systems. You can't be Pope, you can't be president, you can't be a billionaire. So shut up and be my slave. They love slavery, believers. Religious conservatives and capitalists love slaves. They love it so much. So you could expand this out. In other words, this is like a guide for you to do your own mega analogy. So understanding benefits yourself and others. You explore together meaningful ideas. However, it doesn't work best on the most ignorant. It triggers the most ignorant. The most ignorant and loyal to belief will be annoyed by the best people in the world, the Socrateses, the yous in the world, the yous and Mises who love understanding. But understanding and dialectic works best with the most intelligent. Harry is pissed off by Joseph, but Aaliyah loves it. She's awesome. It works best on the most virtuous, open-minded, courageous, kind-hearted, curious, truth seekers or wisdom seekers. People who are motivated by belief desire wealth and fame in the physical world so that they can use that to have power over others to fulfill their physical desires. Right? That's what we got from Harry, right? If I can convince people that I'm an expert, I can make the big bucks. And if I can change my beliefs, like let's take America for example, the podcasters and comedians and politicians, they hated Trump until he got into power. Now they're all pro-Trump. Even his own cabinet, even his own vice president called Donald Trump America's Hitler. But if you can change your beliefs, when in Rome do as the Romans do, to fit the people who are in power, then you can make the bucks. And be the one doing the bombing of the children and going to the Epstein Island and murdering them for your own pleasure. So that's what believers seek. Interesting? Whereas understanding seeks truth or desires the truth of reality or the true self, the goodness of mind and reality or the good self, the benefit you derive from goodness, the oneness of knowledge and understanding, bringing things to a oneness of understanding, or your direct experience of knowledge is a oneness all at once. So there's the whole and the parts, knowing and understanding. And follows the logos and ousia of self and reality. So, different game, isn't it? That which is true, good, and unifying of our souls, of our relationship, of our life, and of our consciousness and state of self. So this is the higher realm. People who are in the shadow realm of physical appearances and physical desires are in the shadow realm. As belief functions through debate, so you can even break these down into different parts if you want to. Debate, so too understanding through the dialectic. If debate is competitive, us versus them, dialectic is mutual. As debate is hypocritical, one rule for me, another rule for you. The Jews have to debate why they are the chosen people and get to do genocide, but the Palestinians aren't allowed to fight back. The imperialists or the Nazis have to defend why they get to have all the money, but the others don't. The billionaire Epstein class doesn't have to obey the law, but others do. The Christians get to murder the Muslims, but blah, 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 blah. It's always different rules, whereas understanding uses universal principles. Debate, lie. There's no rule against lying for belief. Nothing to do with truth. It's about what's the purpose of belief? To save the beliefs that you grew up inherited by hermeneutics. So they lie. Lying is OP. And They lie to defend their slavery and their exploitation, and they use the money to buy the media companies, and then they just lie on TV. Lie, 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 lie. Never should be allowed. Be laws against lying in public, knowingly lying in public. Because manipulate people to act against their own interests. So that's the sickness we are in at a societal level. Whereas in the dialectic, you use universal principles, including truth, and you apply them universally to universally benefit. So that would be the standard for the true political party, the true kind of relationships, the true governing of your soul. Whereas we see, oh, yes, every conservative, even the establishment left, they're actually conservatives lying about being interested in progressive, because this is the progressive side, this is the conservative side. Conservative isn't a political party, it's the pathologos party, in principle. So, whereas the true nature of politics would be this, and spirituality as well. Universal principles to be apprehended and seen, and then the expertise and skill and practice to universally apply that which you apprehend through knowing and understanding in order to facilitate universal benefit. Whereas we saw in the text, Harry wasn't interested in benefiting others, he was interested in benefiting only himself through lying. And the standard of knowing for believers. Because the standard of knowing for understanding is actual expertise and rulership. Your state of mind is a different state of consciousness. When you apprehend the model in the realm of models, that's a state of mind. Blissful, profound, illuminating. That state of mind isn't available to belief. Belief doesn't have a state of mind. The functioning from that model of knowing and understanding or wisdom, you can use to benefit. So the activity for actual expertise in the realm of understanding is understanding. State of mind of knowing and the functioning of understanding, whereas belief, they can only do harm. You can't believe your way into flying a plane, you can only believe your way into crashing it. So the inflicting harm or punishment is the standard of functioning. So the capitalists are quite happy to fire, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, says the capitalists. Quite happy to put in prison anyone who challenges the Donald Trump or whatever, Netanyahu. Bombs the children and the religious people, sentence people to hell. They can't actually solve problems. They can't actually solve problems or reach excellence. That would require understanding. The logos, true philosophy. They are opposed to true philosophy because they are defending belief. So all they can do is harm, and therefore the state of mind of doing that thing they can do becomes the surrogate for knowing. That's sadism. So while the state of mind of actual understanding is that blissful state of knowing the whole, the state of mind for believers is sadism, to desire the power over others to inflict harm or punishment, same thing. So, why are people so cruel and stupid? Belief. Can you express that in more than just one word? Oh, sure, I can divide it up. What we just said. The surrogate state of mind for knowing, because belief doesn't have a state of mind and it can't function through understanding beneficially, can only inflict harm or do punishment, retributive justice, and so it takes that state of inflicting harm as ideal. So, the more believers in your group, the more assholes. Shouldn't say that. Assholes serve an important function. The more jerks in your group. The more ignorant you are. So the rednecks, or in Australia we call them bogans, the more ignorant, the more proud of their ignorance. But what makes them a knower? The ability to beat up someone, or kick their dog, or beat their woman. And of course, 40% of police, blah, 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 domestic violence. We all know that stat. Now we know why. So, therefore, belief can only relate to the sameness and only in the physical realm of appearances, so they're stuck in the shadow realm. Whereas understanding can relate to sameness in the models and standards that are universal, and relate to the differences through understanding the parts and the aspects. Therefore, the sameness is that, so our purpose, the literal meaning of life and highest functioning we're here to achieve as human beings, or any intelligent life at this stage of development, the sameness is the dialectic, that's the model and standard, and to apply the dialectic specifically relating to the differences of the souls or human beings or aliens or bleep blorps on planet bloop gleeps is philosophical midwifery. So to recognize there are stages of giving birth to those two kinds of questions. Your problems, yeeting that fetusing, yeetus the fetus of your false beliefs, but also bring to birth your highest insights of knowing. So that's relating to differences. So that's our ultimate art and highest functioning. Believers, here we go, oppose reason and evidence. That's prejudice. So anyone who's functioning, who defends everything is relative, everything is personal perspective, and that's legitimate. Hey, the right wingers, that's not different from the left. It's just a different, I'm fiscally conservative. That's a different opinion. Yes. Bollocks, that's prejudice. To oppose reason and evidence. Prejudice. Whereas understanding follows the logos, follows reason and evidence, including your most profound experiences. When we say evidence, we don't just mean the physical adjectives or the things that we can perceive with our physical senses only. We are here to transform ourselves into higher states of consciousness, self, and functioning through understanding. And each one of those, self, consciousness, and understanding, are the 1, 2, 3. He. So, when we say evidence and reason, by evidence we also include the highest experiences, even though you can't put them in a test tube. What we have seen in the text is you can recognize a physical biochemical equivalent to different states of mind, which is why psychedelics and drugs can work to facilitate deeper insights. But that's not the cause, or that's not the thing itself. And as the text says, anything that you can have through drugs are likely more, it's better achieved through your own personal development through understanding. In other words, it's a window, not a door. It can wake you up to a higher dimension of reality, but of course, as we've seen in other spiritual traditions, it doesn't solve your problems. And you have to keep having those experiences to keep remembering the truth of self and reality, because your karma or your false beliefs are more profound than your highest experiences. And of course, some people will say, and there's also diminishing returns with psychedelics or any chemicals. Chasing the dragon, chasing that first high people talk about. But whatever your experience are, however you get them, that's not to say that those are bad or immoral. Only the ignorant would say that. However you get them, by car or by walking, the importance is how you make sense of it. What reasoning do you apply? Even in your peak experiences, or any peak experiences, what do you do in the afterglow? How do you, ousia, reflect on them with logos reason? Reason and evidence, reason and ousia. Step by step. So understanding is to follow the logos through step by step, guided step by step, through questions and answers to reach insight and understanding. There's your ousia and logos. The two things are always the same two things. Ousia and logos, insight and understanding, experience and reason. Always the two. Whereas those two things are opposed by belief. So the two highest evolutionary functions that are the two fundamental elements of everything that we look at, be it reason and evidence, or it's always logos and ousia. Insight and understanding, logos and ousia. Self-reflection through conversation, ousia and logos. Same thing. those two fundamental aspects of the human goodness, excellence, and functioning are opposed by belief. So there's another way you can define in a simple sentence why belief is the cause of all human problems. Isn't this book a banger? Aren't we brilliant to read it and have fun in this way? Yes.
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I aura,
We're joy maxing.
That's funny.
And it is funny.
It's awesome and it's gangster.
And it is gangster.
in the final quarter of the ball game, you have to throw it in, and that's when it all matters. It's all up to now, one out.
And then we're clutch, as the oracle tells us. So how does that relate to? So each one of these things you should be able, what you can do is go through and find fill out this side of the analogy. So there's a third term here. As belief is to understanding, that's its cognitive function. It functions or demonstrates itself through interpretation. Your life's purpose is this for belief, the hermeneutics for belief, perfection and purification for understanding. How you relate to others, manipulation versus exploring ideas together. So your job is to go through, or your game to play is to go through and do these two. You can use this as a launching pad if you want, but also add the third one. So as sickness is to health, or sickness is to excellence, in terms of what? So you would have to define what each one of these things are. That's your job. So down here we are in the realm of personal development. So how does personal development relate A to B, belief to understanding? Well, for personal development, so I'll give you one. So I'll give you one to get started. As well, it's a bit thin. That's what she said.
That's insane. Like, you need help. There's no help, actually. You need
Come
a
on.
straitjacket.
That joke wasn't that bad.
She's a moron. She's a bonked on the head individual, BHI.
I
Is
coined
she?
that.
No, she's not.
Freaks.
Come on. So, personal development. Personal development as is to this for belief, is to this for understanding. So as personal development is for belief, to be stuck, entrenched, stagnant in human sickness, opposed to your human development, understanding's relationship to personal development is it involves becoming pregnant with meaningful questions about your problem and beliefs themselves. That's the pathologos. Excellence, your excellence and higher goals, the self-logos. So we should flip these around actually, because what we've got is your personal problem, or problems themselves, beliefs, your personal highest goals, or excellence itself. So one's your personal, so your job is to become curious about your personal highest goals, like Aaliyah's question about what everything's made of, and why are we here, and why in this part of time. These are all her personal insights and discoveries of a higher nature, while also becoming curious about excellence itself. How do we give birth? How do we give birth to these highest questions? So too, we have to be curious about our own specific problem and beliefs themselves. Those things we saw in the text. Joseph saying, become curious about what powers belief. If wisdom is so great, why does beliefs have such a strong effect? Why are beliefs more powerful than enlightenment experience? More powerful than wisdom? Where does that power come from? What purpose does it serve for us or for humanity itself in our evolution? In other words, become pregnant with questions about belief and your own specific problem. Like Harry, why am I fighting a losing battle? Going down with the ship, even though it's not my ship? And how does it relate to my relationship with my father? So that's how that's the nature of human development, or personal development, to give birth, or to become pregnant and nurture those two kinds of questions about the personal and the, there we go. There's the whole, or the sameness, beliefs themselves, excellence itself, and difference, your own personal pathologos and your own personal highest insights and goals. So at this point, we broke down how understanding, while belief has one function to oppose those two kinds of questions, because there's no development. If you believe you're an expert, then you're an expert. If you believe you know what it means to be a parent because of your beliefs from childhood, then you're a qualified parent. If you believe you can tell people they're going to hell and feel like an expert because you're copying your pastor or minister, that's it. You don't have to learn anything. You don't have to go through any process of removing what's false. That's the human sickness. Cosplaying the Noah. Whereas understanding has 4 different levels of functioning that we have, that we broke down. All right, here I am back from my break. So, understanding can, number 1, you can use understanding to go through all of the things we've gone through before. Bring all of them together to learn what's involved in purifying or freeing yourself from your beliefs. Harry's question that he is only starting to become curious about at the end of the book, meaning you could write a sequel to this depicting where Harry goes from here. So understanding can solve problems. Freeing yourself, surfacing, understanding, purifying, and freeing yourself from your beliefs. Understanding can reflect on the model for understanding. Those models are the models for understanding. While beliefs are always personal, no two people's beliefs are the same, and they're always wrong and bad and harmful, even mine, yes, even yours, but I'm not a radical. But they're beliefs, aren't they? But I don't suicide bomb people. I just suffer from them myself. Well, you matter. Oh yeah, and I push them on my kids too. Well, they matter. And I vote for, certain people if they reflect my values. Oh, well, then the society matters. And I kind of want to insist that we make laws based on my religion too. Well, that matters. See? Takes courage and integrity to act on that, though. So, while that's personal and bad, the understanding is one of those 3 things
1, 2, 3.
that are transpersonal, objective, universal. So there has to be a, therefore, objective, transpersonal, true, eternal model for understanding. So to perfect understanding by reflecting on the model, that's the Elias question, those higher kinds of questions. To answer the questions about what's everything made of or what's the purpose, you have to look into the mind of mind itself. And it's that eternal nature of intelligence that give us the not parts, but aspects, well, you could say parts, eidos, aspects, that we use in understanding. When you understand something, do you want to understand how it's the same as other things like it, but different from it, other things that are unlike? Oh, same, different, like, unlike. Where do they exist? Have you ever seen them in the physical world? Could an imitator or a believer imitate same and difference? Hello, Same. How's the weather today? Oh, good, thanks, mate. How are you? Have you seen difference? She parked her car at my house after the party. They don't have a physical existence. They are adjectives in our physical world of appearances or shadows. But their existence, or the substantive, the nouns, are aspects of pure intelligence. So by reflecting on these questions, we're essentially reflecting on the model of mind itself, from which we get understanding. So understanding can perfect itself, which leads to those peak experiences, making it the archetype of the spiritual tradition, or all yoga. So that peak experience is knowing. It's ousia, turning around to know yourself. The Greek word for that knowing is nous, the transpersonal models and ideals. So understanding can remove your problems and reach your peak experiences. Understanding, so unlike Eastern spiritual traditions, they can't remove problems, but sometimes you might get lucky and have those peak experiences, meditating under a waterfall or counting your breath for 40 years or whatever it is. So it might have this. What it doesn't have is removing problems, but also it doesn't reflect on those peak experiences to further develop them, to allow for longer experiences, deeper experiences. More often do you have them, and in more profound depth, profundity, understanding that what you're experiencing is essentially yourself, or your own mind, or mind itself. That's what makes it profound. It's not other than you. And you'll only recognize that with the addition of understanding. The fourth thing that understanding can do is reflect on the cause of those peak experiences. Just as we reflected on the cause of our problems and the cause of understanding those aspects, so too can we reflect on the cause of those experiences to realize, hang on a second, if those experiences are number two,
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Very funny to me.
In the final quarter of the ball game,
I have a sickness for the thickness.
And we have a sickness for the thickness and the ball game. So, right, RM?
Cookie maxing.
Okay, cookie maxing too. So there's the two-ness, because it's self-experiencing mind. What's the source? As a unity, as a oneness, what's the cause of oneness? One. What's beyond self's experiences? The self. So therefore, these kinds of dialectics, once again, tailored specifically to meet the person, depending on their level of depth of those experience or level of curiosity of the self and level of freedom from their problems, you could run someone through, play this game, walk them through the dialectic relevant to their philosophical pregnancy to take them from those peak experiences through to the self. Crossing the purple line, we call it. So those are the four functionings: removing problems, having peak experiences, developing and nurturing and going into those experiences with greater depth, and then going beyond those experiences. Three things that understanding has, or four things I should say, that belief does not. Belief opposes every single one of them. Reason 742 why beliefs are shit and the cause of all human problems. They fundamentally fight savagely, violently against in principle by definition, not because I don't like them or because they're not my beliefs or because in 1,000 years we'll have better beliefs or on a different planet they have better. No, beliefs themselves are a cognitive function defined specifically by opposing these four functionings of understanding that are necessary and are the nature of our development and excellence and solving problems. So understanding is
it's a win-win-win.
Understanding is a win-win-win.
The more holes, the better.
Exactly. We want to have holes. Right, Emma?
Everything this guy does is perfect and beautiful.
Thank you.
And he's handsome.
Thank you.
I said it.
It's important that somebody says it. Right?
Now we're getting into extreme Jordan Peterson levels of whimsy.
No, hang on. That wasn't that whimsical to say that I'm handsome. Come on. So, what does understanding and expertise allow you to do? Predict the future. Oh, if you keep driving that car without oil, your engine will explode, says the mechanic with expertise. Applied to our souls, if you follow the path of belief and hermeneutics, it leads to death and destruction sweeping across the land. Everything, whenever we let belief rule, religion, spirituality, which is religion, politics, which is conservatism, economic money flow, which is capitalism, it will only and always lead to death and destruction. And because belief is always requires a sacrificial lamb to be the sadist too, once the Nazis killed the Jews, they go after the gays or go after the women, go after everyone. Eventually, the Nazis turn on themselves. It ends with one person standing atop a pile of dead bodies. And that person dies too. Eventually, it will lead to human extinction and our planetary destruction. Don't have to be a genius to see that's where we're headed. And within your personal life, it will harm every area of this life, and your false beliefs will affect the kind of death you have, and your false beliefs of self and reality you carry with you beyond this life will affect the kind of reincarnation. So not only does the understanding the difference between belief and understanding and moving from A to B, is it necessary to save our human species, to save our planet, it's also necessary to save your relationships, save everything you do in your life, but also not just your life, your death, and what follows. It all comes together. So these are all the aspects that Aaliyah wanted answers for in her question. Maybe we can help her by using this. So what would this be called? What would you say? Life, death, and reincarnation? What would you say? In terms of that's for you to so your job is to fill out all of these. So each one of these, you'd have to, etc. You get it. You get it. You pick up what I'm laying down. You're smart people. You're the best people, and the most handsome.
Funny, cool, and accents. Come on.
That's you. You've got accents, I bet. And I bet you're funny and cool.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
The T-virus will transform me into an epic creation.
And I expect you're all being transformed into epic creations. So, belief, therefore, causes a life of suffering. Whereas understanding is the highest game where you have real fun, so the opposite of suffering, fun. Homo ludens, which was the expression from the text, man the player. So that's our purpose, to play this game. If you don't, you're going to be stuck in suffering. That's belief. We also point out this includes scientific beliefs. Because even though it does use reason and evidence, it only applies them to the physical world. There's no meaning. Doesn't apprehend or care about the whole, or the models, or the universals. It looks at the parts, isolates smaller and smaller parts. Oh, if I bang these two parts, I get a nuclear explosion. I guess we should do that. Nuclear power plants. Nuclear bombs. Should we do it? I don't give a fuck. We can do it. Let's do it for profit. So scientific beliefs operate that way. No care about the model, the whole, the standards. No apprehension of the good, the true, or the one. Or goodness, truth, or oneness. So you are still ruled by your own personal beliefs. If your family taught you it was good to use your scientific stuff to build bombs, you'll go into the arms industry. That murders children. Do we ever learn why that's bad in school, objectively? No. Because of the separation between state and meaning. So, you're only imitating the processes of nature. Oh, nature can do this. Let's do it. Should you? Should you shut up? How about you shut up? So, no meaning. Whereas Eastern spirituality does talk about meaning, they care about meaningful experiences of the whole. They call them enlightenment experiences. But they don't last. And their effects don't last. They also don't solve problems, showing the karma isn't, or enlightenment doesn't burn karma. Karma is greater, therefore, than enlightenment. You don't go beyond experiences. You don't do that thing that understanding can do, is look at the cause of those peak experiences to go to the self. There's nothing beyond experience. So you never end up knowing the self. So whatever beliefs you have about the self is illusion, Maya, the self is emptiness. You hear a lot of Eastern spiritual people talking that way. All thoughts are illusions. All self is bad or wrong or emptiness. Garbage. But also, hey, these peak experiences without understanding ends up making problems worse, as we saw in the text. So, while scientific beliefs deal with the shadow of understanding, dianoia, and no meaning, Eastern spirituality deals with the shadow of meaning without understanding. Isn't that interesting? Or has some experiences that are meaningful, but without understanding is still a shadow. What we saw at the end is therefore what we can do with these big mega analogies that unify the different aspects of the text, and so long as you fill in this set, you'll be able to understand the relationships between the parts. So collect the parts into a unity while understanding the parts, developing a expertise and mastery of this banger text that's very important for us to read, all people to read. You can also unify it in a different way, because we saw that this is expressed not just in truth, but in humanness or relationships. There's a dynamic of Harry's relationship with Aaliyah. Their celebrity couple name? Ellery. Aaliyah and Harry. Allery. And in the sequel where we ship them together, that you can write, I hope you do. Joseph and Aaliyah, Jolia. Isn't that lovely?
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I aura mog you because I'm joy maxing so hard, that just sounds like your cortisol levels are spiking for no reason.
That's what Aaliyah will say to Harry. Sorry, Harry, we are joy maxing in our relationship over here.
The more holes, the better.
Participating in greater levels of holes.
It's not being crazy. It's called reaching a higher sense of being.
And we're reaching a higher state of being. See? Sometimes the sound drops work perfectly. Your sound drops work perfectly. So, all of this can be expressed in the majority of human relationships that are harmful, that involve conflict, that involve manipulation, because everyone's fighting for their own personal beliefs about love, about beauty, and their fantasies they want to push in their relationships or intimacy. You end up solidifying and entrenching yourself in your ignorance that you are here to remove. Uh-oh, had the reverse effect. You play out your old games from others. So Harry repeating his parents' stuff, Aaliyah repeating her parents' problems, etc., etc. Hermeneutics. Saving the old sickness from her parents and them from their parents and their great-grandparents and great-great-great-great-grandparents. A big lineage of ignorance and stupidity by playing it out in the present. Playing it out with internet. Playing it out with cars. Playing it out with, so the same ignorance, hermeneutics. Saved by applying it to modern conveniences and stuff. It will end in the same predictable, once you know your problems, you can guess how it will end. You can even look at your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and how their relationships ended, and you can even get an insight. Ending in the same predictable, tragic end. That's called love of opinions, philodoxia relationships. And you take that conflict as you fight or debate or manipulate or lie or exploit to push your own personal beliefs about what's loving and good and so on. You find that conflict as an expression of love. You seen that before? I don't know you love me unless you prove it by fighting me. If you don't fight for what you believe, how do I know you love me? We'd have to fight, and then we can have makeup sex. Garbage. Garbage. Philo-nikos, the love of conflict or fighting or debate. So those are philo-nikos or philodoxia relationships. Whereas the ideal that we should be seeking, so therefore the relationships that allow us to fulfill our purpose in everything. So taking everything we've got on this side of the game, we can bring it all together in a truly loving relationship. But notice, it's not what you're used to. You won't see this relationship on Friends. You won't see your parents or your friends or your real life friends in it. It's something new we have to learn. It's not new, we're rediscovering the Hellenic model, the Socratic model, the true model. As this is the true model for spirituality, the true model of education, the true state of or process for evolution, for transformation, it's also the true model for relationships. So we can play out in our relationships all of the dynamics we need for our own development, happiness, overcoming of problems, to fulfill our purpose both in this life and our death and beyond. So true loving relationships. That is a loving relationship based on a love of understanding. Hooray.
I'm joy maxing, okay? And it's not being crazy. You're beautiful and everybody loves you, and you have the most beautiful breasts and the juiciest ass.
There we go. You'd say that in your relationship.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
About beautiful.
Everything this guy does is perfect and beautiful. And he's handsome.
Perfect and beautiful.
I said
and
it.
Handsome and juicy and juicy ass and beautiful breasts. You'd say all of that. While also sharing a love of understanding. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win. So love and logos together. Hey, love without logos is that sickness over there. Love without understanding is sick. Sadism. Tough love. Punishment. Blah. Gross. So what would that be? There's Jolia, if we ship them together. There's you, and there's your beloved. And just like we said before, a shared ideal you can both focus on together. Just as you can have a shared focus on the dialectic you share with your friend at the coffee shop. A shared state of being, the philosopher king or queen, the Hellenic person, through which we can gain a mastery of the dialectic and philosophical midwifery, our highest function, our intended function, our justest function that we are here to master through time. As we participate in and through our highest function, purpose, but also, let's not forget, it's the funnest game.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
The joy and the whimsy and the childlike wonder.
They're secretly turned on by it.
And you can be secretly turned on by it.
Goon, 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 goon,
Goon, goon, goon, goon, goon.
goon, 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 goon.
Queen of gooning.
You can be the queen of gooning. Oh, that's crazy.
Be a reasonable gooner.
But you're being a reasonable gooner. That's the thing. Reason, understanding. So, enough silly sound drops aside.
Bull testicles. Bull testicles.
Okay, just one more. So the funnest game. Played out in the ideal relationship. And in doing that, you are experiencing those higher states, mastering them, integrating them, and enjoying understanding, mind or being, and the self. That's the 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
That's 1, 2, 3. And as you perfect understanding your highest state of being and knowing and integrating the self to your highest state of self, you're also doing number 4, freeing yourself from beliefs. Reaching a shared ideal together every step of the way you can share with your partner or your friends in the ideal loving relationship. So that can bring together everything like that. How's my coffee? It's okay. So what do we do with this? Well, you can make your own because... So what do we do with this analogy? Actually, hold for 1 second. I just need to turn my jug on, so I've got some coffee in a minute. All right, so what do we do with this? Well, so our question is analogy. This is a big analogy. A-N-A-L. Don't stop there.
You should know that you need to quit living your current life and go start a new one as a minor. That is your life calling. You were not meant for socializing with other human beings. You were meant to get black lung.
Black lung for my silly joke. What do you say, Emma?
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now.
All right, you're all against me
Okay,
today.
that sounds stupid.
Okay, enough. So, number one, we can bring together the parts or aspects of the text in an order. Which also allows us to also see the relationships between the parts and between the two sets. We also can therefore, we'll put the whole thing in there. Why not? Pardon me. So the relationships between the of parts. Okay, let's bring this over here to get the order. And see the parts, see the relationships of parts within the set and across the sets, different holes. The more holes the better, right, Emma?
The more holes, the better.
We got there. What do you say, Oracle?
I have a sickness for the thickness.
That's right. We have sickness for that thickness. Across and also across the sets. So within the sets and across the sets, you can see the relationships of the parts. The second thing that the analogy allows you to do is you can see the missing parts that you can then see as the questions or puzzles to solve from the text. Hey, if you've seen, let's use an example. So what we've got the name of the relationship, the belief version, and the understanding version. So let's understanding. So let's use a metaphor. Let's use an analogy to make this clear. So hey, you're playing Resident Evil, and you see you have to get to the next stage. You see that there is a door, and each door has a key. You've seen that there was a green door that had a green key, and a red door that had a red key. Oh, now you come across a blue door, but you don't have the key. Your job is to find the key to fill in this missing term based on this analogy within the game. You can't bring a key from Mario Brothers. That's cheating. It has to be a key from Resident Evil, found in the game. So, in a similar way, in the same way, yeah. That's the puzzles to solve that the author is giving you in the text. So So as you do this yourself, you might recognize I've missed a few. There's like a big section here missing, but also we could expand these, and maybe I'm missing the exact equivalents. That's for you to do. So to find the missing puzzles, and maybe they're not given specifically, you have to infer them from the relationships between the characters. That's the fun. So it shows you it shows you the missing parts that you can then look for in the text. That's a lot of fun too. Hooray.
Oh, very handsome and or pretty.
It's not being crazy. The T-virus will transform me. Now we're getting into extreme in the final quarter of the you're beautiful and everybody loves you.
Okay, I don't know what I was looking for there. I just pushed too many buttons.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
Thank you, Emma. All right, what else does analogy give us? Oh, hang on a second. Within the analogy, we saw that this section is the nature and cause of our excellence, our purpose, meaning of life, and our highest goals. How do we do that? The dialectic, baby. So what's the dialectic? You need to have a set of terms that you arrange within the dialectic structure. Oh, now you've got the terms, now you can play the game. That which we call the model of spirituality and yoga and mysticism and education and transformation and evolution, you can now do. You've got all these terms that you can now put into a dialectic. Take it to the coffee shop with your friends and share it with them. Test your understanding, the ideal relationship. Not to defend your beliefs, but to test your level of understanding and insight on this topic. So in other words, you have... Is that the same color? No, it's different. You have the material to do dialectics. On the two categories of the most meaningful things: on belief and understanding. And hey, not just belief and understanding. Within those two things, you might find you've got sufficient material to do a dialectic on Eastern spirituality, on physical sciences, on debate, on dialectic, on the difference between dialectic and midwifery. So you can use this as a starting point to do the dialectic. And we can then right now say, okay, if this is our one of the two most meaningful things we can do, well, yeah, one of the two aspects, we could break down what the dialectic involves. Just to remind you or give you a refresher or to share the structure of the dialectic. Could do that now. Uh-oh, we're missing something. Didn't we say that there are two things that we're supposed to do? Purify our beliefs and perfect our understanding. If that's perfecting our understanding, in other words, that will give us the truth of belief and understanding and anything else from that list that we want to gain mastery of ourselves, gain actual expertise, not just sound like a philosopher, but be a philosopher, not just imitate. We have to recognize, therefore, that it's not just truth, it's... What's the principle? This game we are in as human beings, as human souls, in this human experience, is truth and humanness. That's the game. That's the transition from Joseph's art as the dialectic into the art of midwifery that you could have Joseph doing in your sequel, because you've gone through this yourself. Truth and humanness. So what's the humanness? As you develop, as you practice that dialectic, you will surface the other thing you're looking for. You're not just, see, with mind, so you know how the oracle tells us to get black lung?
Get the fuck out. Fucking bitch, pussy ass fucker.
Oh my goodness. By being a minor, well, we, in the positive sense, we've mined all the gems from the text in this analogy that we can then use for the dialectic. So too, the most important thing to do is mine the clues that you get about your problem, your false beliefs or karma that blocks your state of being, that is your true nature of self, true enlightenment. How do we mine the material? Because this is in the text, your personal problem. Well, we gain the sameness of the model about beliefs, and we gain the sameness of the model of understanding, but you have to do your own dialectic. How you choose these things and how you arrange them will be unique to you, and you will develop your understanding only if you do it. You gotta do it, and it's fun, and you share it with your friends. And if you can find friends in this community, you can join the Discord and stuff to find like-minded souls here. But then how do we get the personal clues or material or gems that we mine for our own personal beliefs? Those are the things that surface as we do this. So as you do number 3, as you do the dialectic, you will surface. So the fourth thing that this mega analogy allows you to do is surface the gems that you mine or clues to discovering your pathologos problem. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
That's the humanness. That's the truth and humanness. Develop a mastery of truth through the dialectic, the skill of understanding, and recognize that you won't be able to do it unless you're also looking for those gems and clues of your human beliefs that get in the way. There's a reason why we didn't just listen to Socrates. Hey, if we could all be living in a world governed by universal principles, universally applied for universal benefit, we could be living in a fucking utopia. You don't have to be destroying the planet for the billionaire Epstein class. Why are we? Why don't we just be good and have fun? It's simple. It's just this. It's on the board. All we have to do is read the book. Because the power of karma, the power of our false beliefs at the cause of our problems, are greater, is the other thing we have to learn how to address. Which is why Harry said, hey, if we can understand, if we can understand the nature and dynamics of human beliefs, shouldn't we teach it in every single classroom every single day? Yes, it's literally the most important thing in education. Necessary thing to save our species. To address the root cause of human problems. And we said, well, if we're going to do this, hey, we also have to be doing that. You can't surface the clues to your problems unless you're seeking excellence and understanding. So to be doing both. Which were the two axioms, right? You have to accept problems are solvable, rational and solvable through the pathologos, and excellence is reachable, knowable through the self-logos. And the third axiom we said we need to have to play the game is that you get messages from your dreams about both. So you should have dream analysis at school every day too. Right?
And she spit on him also.
And also she spit on him.
Hubba. I just want
Am I-
more testosterone to
No.
human body ratio,
No.
and I'll finally be satisfied.
Oh my goodness, Emma, neither the time nor the place.
Gooner.
Be a gooner.
Jester goon maxed.
Okay, maybe it is, because she's goon max. She's just a goon maxing us. Oh, what nonsense.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
Okay, fair enough. So that's the humanness. You'll surface your what sorts of things. So as we're going to expand out the dialectic, what sort of things will we surface as those clues? The clues, the material. Well, as you decide to do this, what gets in the way? The clues, what sort of words come up? How do they sound? They sound like? What do they sound like? What states of mind do you get in that says, don't do that dialectic, don't do it. Just watch Jed do it. States of mind. Or I'm not good enough. Or feeling states. Or emotional states. Where do you feel it in your body? What images come up? Is there a story that comes up? Is there a drama that you imagine that comes up in your mind? Any key phrases? The sorts of things we hear Harry repeat. So all of the sorts of things that we have been looking in Harry through this dialogue. What words does he use? What states of mind is he in? What drama or stories does he try and invite us into with this conflict? Does he repeat key phrases like pull yourself up from your straps, know your place, stay on the right side of the tracks? All these things that he's repeating from his parents, from his upbringing, his false belief. All of them are insights into his problem. Key phrases. Fave philosophers. The favorite philosopher is you. So we're learning how to be a philosopher ourselves, and that's what's important. So all of these things are clues. So if that's what we are, so we have to mine these things and write them down. All of the things that get in the way of you doing your real job, your meaning of life, to be a true philosopher. Dialectic. So how do we arrange the dialectic? Let's do a quick review of how we structure those terms. We have a list of terms. Well, yeah, but also reading philosophers out. Yes, we read on this channel. There are three basic philosophers who have reached excellence in understanding the nature of reality and the intelligible nature of reality that allows us to reach our meaningful goals. In doing two kinds of things: surfacing our false beliefs that cause our problems and developing insight into the true nature of self and reality that will benefit your relationships, how you relate to everything you care about, but also how you die and what happens after you die. So it's a meaning beyond just this lifetime. So those are the two things: remove your problems and reach your excellence. Now we are about 31 episodes into reading this book. We read this book because this author has mastered this himself, and he's left us a book that so long as we apply ourselves to reading it, we can reach that level of excellence ourselves. So absolutely it helps. It's even necessary. So we've almost finished the dialogue. What we've done is collected the key terms by recognizing that the root cause of all human problems is belief, and the root cause of human excellence is understanding. But the difficulty is, well, we have to read the book to nail it down. So after reading the book, we've got a whole list of terms related to belief. Sorry, which book is it? It's called Is It All Relative? There's a link to the PDF you can get below, or you can buy the book. It's called Is It All Relative? Have you ever noticed that a lot of people say, hey, there's no truth in understanding, it's all relative to perspective. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and if it seems true to you, then it is true. And if it seems someone else has their truth. Truth is personal, truth is subjective. And we're all entitled to our own opinions, and it's all relative to our own perspective and beliefs. Therefore, there's no use in developing understanding, becoming a philosopher, reaching the truth of self and reality, solving your problems. There are no problems. If it seems true to you, then it's... Have you noticed that this is one of the key beliefs and catchphrases of our age? Therefore, one of the most important and meaningful books you can read is a book that explores this idea to see whether or not it's true, to see what's the cause behind it, to see how it functions and how it limits or causes human problems. In a easy to read modern dialogue, like Socrates' Dialectics, but a modern dialectic which is easy to read and by God, it is written fantastically. It's a goddamn banger. So that's why we read this book. It's given us what we need to understand human problems and understand human excellence, but also to do it ourselves, and that's where we are. That's absurd. I'm in my final year of philosophy degree and I'm not a fan of relativism of any sort. Great, good for you. Good for you. This book nails it down. This book's, the greatest philosophy teacher of our age is a guy named Dr. Pierre Grimes. He's also the only Westerner to reach Buddhahood within the Eastern spiritual traditions. He was a good friend of Alan Watts. You maybe know Alan Watts. So anyway, the greatest philosopher who taught at Golden West College in America wrote this book. So he was a master of the Logos. He rediscovered how we can use the dialectic to understand human problems in an activity called philosophical midwifery. So what we lost with Socrates when we murdered him, and then when the church shut down the academy that was started by Socrates' teacher, Plato, was rediscovered by this philosopher. He's a goddamn genius. But you don't have to believe me. It doesn't really matter whether or not he's a genius. The point is, he's written a book that if we apply ourselves to reading, we can understand the most meaningful questions and understand the method for doing the most meaningful things and fulfilling our purpose in our relationships, in our own self, and to purify ourselves from our problems in this life, but also beyond. So all of those things are big claims. But if you go to the YouTube site, there's a link below, you can go through the 30 episodes that bring us to this point. But you're welcome to throw out questions as we go as well. Check it out, thanks. Oh yeah, I hope you find something to be curious about. But keep in mind, there are two aspects that we have discovered. As you seek understanding, you will find the false limiting beliefs that you don't even suspect you have, that have been guiding you throughout your life. You maybe even needed them to survive your childhood. You will find those beliefs come up to stop you. The human problem isn't simply we don't know the truth. It's that we fight against the truth by being loyal to our beliefs. There is an evolutionary origin to that in our caveman times, where everything outside of the cave was bad and scary, and we'd have to be fervently loyal to our tribe leader and our tribe way of being. Those that allowed certain early humans to survive without self-reflection and language. But now that we have self-reflection and language, that loyalty to the beliefs of our childhood are a kind of solution that no longer applies. It causes our problems. That is to say, as you seek to master this book, which will be applying the dialectic to it, you will find also words, feelings, states of minds, fantasies, tangents, dramas that come up to block you from doing it. The game is to write them down. You can't do one without the other. You can't find the truth about self and reality without at the same time surfacing your false beliefs about self and reality that oppose it. You can't be the job as the manager if you think that you have nothing good to say and no one listens to you. You either sacrifice your goal or your false image of self. Most people sacrifice the goal, but we are developing courage and integrity and the ideal relationships with the best kinds of people by seeking to let go of our false beliefs that we've identified with and perfect understanding. So we could add those other things we mentioned. Distractions, tangents, fantasies, keep a notebook, write them down. Because eventually, once you record enough of them, you'll start to notice a pattern unfolding. Once you have a pattern unfolding, you can reflect on it in a way to trace it back to to the origin. And if you're able to address the origin, you can free yourself from your karma or your problems. Fantasies.
Goon.
Fantasies. So we'll go back to that, because that's the humanness. But before we address because there's two things we have to deal with, truth and humanness. Can't do one without the other. So before we get into the humanness of how this drama plays out within ourselves, let's first address the truth. Because we have these mega analogies to do with belief and understanding, how it functions, how it plays out in relationships, how it relates to truth and evidence, how it causes problems, how it brings death and destruction in our world, etc., versus understanding, how it will reach excellence, so all of the things that we can even bring together into a unity with the two kinds of relationships, Ellery and Jolia, depending on who Aaliyah ends up with. We said we can use this mega analogy to bring the parts of the text together and to see in an order and see how see the relationships between the parts within the set, within understanding, but also across the set, how understanding relates to belief. We can see the missing parts. What do we have for belief that we don't have for understanding? What do we have for understanding we don't have for belief? And we go through the text and we find those missing parts. We solve the puzzle. We find the red key to the red door, so we open up the gate to the T-virus and fight the Mr. T.
Now we're getting into extreme Jordan Peterson levels of whimsy.
Okay, we're getting whimsical with our analogies, but that's okay. The analogy also gives us the material to do the dialectics on belief, on understanding, on anything else that we've explored. Eastern spirituality, modern academic science, modern academic philosophy, and how it's different from true philosophy. To make it into your own understanding. To play the game of understanding the actual spiritual process, the actual educational process. And in doing so, we will surface the clues that we can use to address our problem. So, let's first look at how we would arrange the terms in the dialectic. Well, the dialectic, you may have noticed that we have been developing a set of terms So while belief is about personal opinions in the physical world, that's always divisive, we see that understanding uses a set of terms that are objective, transpersonal. We see them as adjectives, but we want to approach them as nouns. So everything that you understand, you understand it as a whole and a part. This chicken, I see it as a whole, but I also recognize there are parts. His little fluffy butt and his wings. Doot, 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 doot. This chicken is the same as this flamingo in that they're stuffies. They're different in that it's yellow and it's pink. So everything that we see, we recognize with these fundamental Lego pieces or building blocks of perception, of understanding. Everything that exists is a whole of parts, is the same as something and different from that something, in that it's a different thing, and same in that it's a thing. So these are the building blocks of perception. But notice, none of these are a matter of perspective. You don't see them with your physical senses. None of them are a matter of opinion. Doesn't matter if you believe that Jesus is king or that Allah is king, whole and parts are still basic fundamental aspects of everything you perceive, everything that exists, everything that you use and that you understand. Doesn't matter who or what, or doesn't matter who. So these are all terms, by the way, also things that exist as nouns. Beauty itself. If you destroy a beautiful vase, the idea of beauty doesn't change, thank goodness. So what? So we can notice that there are three fundamental categories. There's the onenesses that deal with goodness, the oneness of beauty, harmony, justice, excellence, to experience reality as a oneness. These are all things that we seek. We desire. So we can even relate them to the three aspects of the soul. We inwardly desire our goodness. We want to eat a good sandwich. We outwardly seek truth in our activities. Whatever you seek, you don't want to be deceived. And we reason things into a oneness. So that truth, we recognize there's the threesome, lesser, greater, and ultimate. By the way, is that what allows us to have analogy? In other words, did we recognize that there was the lesser aspect of human cognition, belief, the greater understanding, and did we put the ultimate next to it, the defining term that you have to fill in, the third part of the analogy? When you do a dialectic with someone, is there the person with the question, the pregnant party? Is there the dialectician playing the greater role to lead the dialogue, and the self-logos, that is the ultimate pattern and principle that you are seeking? So what? Why are we talking about this? Well, when you look at so that's truth that we seek, the threesome, lesser, greater, ultimate, or false, truth, and true, the principle of true. So that's that principle. Remember how you had to fill out that third category? Belief is to understanding is to the principle for each of the terms. The principle of truth, allowing what's true and what's false. Goodnesses are what we seek, but we are dealing with understanding. What does understanding want to do? Bring the many into a oneness. What made Theaetetus pregnant? When Socrates asked him, what's the single knowledge that unifies into a oneness all of the many kinds of knowledge? What are we curious about belief? All of the many aspects of belief. Why is it powerful? Why does it affect us? Why does it put us off? What's the root nature of all human problems? Can we bring those manyness into a oneness? So understanding or reasoning seeks a oneness. In other words, to understand this chicken, we have to get the butt part and the feety part and the wings part and bring those parts into a whole. But we can say, hang on a second, whether it's whole and part, same and different, like and unlike, and all the other ones, is one to do with one, and within the category of ones, one whole, one thing that's the same, and the other part is to do with many, many parts, many different things. So one and many sit above. But we go one step further. Because the ultimate term is the one self. So these are pairs are things to do with oneness, these monads or single ideas, goodness, and this triad to do with truth. 1, 2, 3. There's another 1, 2, 3 for you.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Therefore, so we said that fourth activity of understanding takes your perception of knowledge and looks at, hey, if it's a oneness, what's the cause? If it's a goodness, what's the cause? If it's truth, what's the cause? One true good, or one good true. But higher even than these three categories is what they are used to describe the self. Therefore, we can say one and many, but higher still, for there to be any creation or reality, self has to then become other, or give rise to other, self and other. So what? So we happen to define the most primary, universal, or primary axiomatic causal idea above all ideas. Self and other. By the way, wouldn't you say, before you even start looking at wholes and parts of this chicken, does the first decision or apprehension that you make that it's not you, that it's other than you? So when you want to have some coffee, you don't feed the chicken because it's other than yourself. So what? Why are we talking about this now? Well, for starters, we're interested in what that 1, 2, 3 we're interested in.
1, 2, 3.
There's our 3, understanding. There's our 2, consciousness. We experience it as the greater beauty, justice, benefit, excellence, the truth of those things. There's our goodness, oneness, and truth of those things. And the ultimate, the one self. So these are the 3 things that are transpersonal that ultimately we are here to master, beyond belief.
1, 2, 3.
And by the way, that fits on our map earlier. So this other map we've been using along the way, we can say above the purple line is the one, the self. Knowing or ousia is the two-ness, mind turning around to know itself. So self-experiencing itself as existence. And 3, understanding. So there's our 1, 2, 3. And 4 is, of course, beliefs. We could even go one step further and say 5 is image thinking. The activity that we do because of our beliefs. Oh, you're a non-Jew image. You're a goyim. You're a non-Christian image. You're a heretic. You're a non-Muslim image. You're an infidel. You're a woman shape. You're bad. You're a bare brown color. I'm a Nazi. I have Nazi beliefs that cause my Nazi image thinking. So we talk about stupid people as only motivated by shapes and colors. This is understanding where that comes from. Number 5, shapes and colors thinking. From number 4, beliefs, which is a shadow or the ignorance, the personal, it's all relative to personal perspective, shadow of wisdom, which is the 1, 2, 3. The 3, understanding the parts. 2, the knowing, and of course, beyond the purple line, the 1.
1, 2, 3.
What craziness. So what? So we've got our 1, 2, 3, but also we want to go and understand how we apply this dialectic. So if dialectic is the archetype for understanding, we can see how it does so by making use of the most primary ideas, self and other. So the first, if you want to explore the idea, you want to do it itself in relation to itself. Definition. So go through that big analogy and say, hey, I want to do a dialectic on understanding. Which of those terms from the text describe understanding in relation to itself? Gives a definition of understanding. Which of those things in our mega analogy describes how it functions to another? And this is why it's personal. You pick the other. How does understanding relate to belief? How does understanding relate to philosophers? How does understanding relate to being or self? You can pick. You don't have to do one. You can do many. That's how it functions or demonstrates itself. Demonstration. So you're describing the thing, itself to itself, how it functions to others. Hey, by the way, that functioning, notice how it carries on. So what you've defined, that definition, self, becomes the self of the next category. And this functioning to others becomes the other of the next category. See how it's not just debate where Jesus is king, that's it. And my job is to do hermeneutics and debate pervert people about it.
Debate pervert.
Proselytize or whatever. Defend it. There's no development, there's no reasoning, there's no more than one step. It's true because it's true. Bible's true because Bible says true. My dad is right because he's my dad. There's no reasoning. What we are seeing is how reasoning actually unfolds. There's a other to other others. So what was defined here as this other becomes, so how does this functioning relate to other others? That's division. Division. How does this functioning of understanding play out within relationships, play out within the dialogue, play out within Harry and Joseph's relationships, play out within the soul's development, all sorts, up to you. Now, from these other others, can you synthesize a single idea or theme or causal element from all of those divisions? Is there something that keeps cropping up? Is there something that rules over everything? Is there a key idea that has surfaced from your explorations of those divisions? That's synthesizing it into another, a single other, that you can then relate back to the subject itself, relate back to the definition. That's synthesis and analysis. There's 2 steps in conclusion. So synthesize from that, there's this key idea, understanding always, let's say, benefits. Therefore, you can take this back to your start. What you started with as a definition of understanding, now you've got an upgraded, improved definition of understanding because you're adding the idea of benefit to it that you would have only seen had you organized it in this way. Pretty fun? You're upgrading your original definition. So there's the development process. But also, it's not just development intellectually, you're also engaged in a kind of meditation. And you're gaining insights from this process. Now, if you want to expand this out further, within any one of these categories, there are fundamentally three kinds of things that you can say. You can say what's true about the subject. What's false, or what you would, more accurately, what you would never say about the subject. What would you never say about understanding? And what's both? What's an idea that works sometimes but not other times, that can therefore show its limitations? What can you say about understanding that applies here but only until here? Like, for example, understanding benefits, but not when it's applied to physical sciences, which does the nuclear bombs and the destruction. So there's both. But a better way of saying what's true is not just what's true about the subject, but you could even go a step further, a higher way of approaching what's true. What are the necessary conditions of this universe for it to be as it is? Conditions. This is a higher way of approaching the idea of truth. What are the necessary conditions for understanding or belief to be itself as it is? And you can apply those to each one of them. So there's your model. Not enough. Why not? Well, we've covered we covered how this uses the two most primary ideas, expanding it out to its four complete possible combinations of those two ideas. The three possible things you can say about every one of them. But this is all based on what color? Purple. If the subject or self is, if it is. And we don't mean is in a temporary shadow realm standard, we mean an eternal existence. Therefore, to completely explore the idea, you'd have to then say, hang on a second, what if I take these four things and also talk about the thing itself, how it functions, the divisions of that functioning. Again, you pick the divisions, you pick the other you're rubbing it up against. So this is unique to you. And you can do more than one. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
How can I do those things in a universe, in a reality or universe, if the subject is not. What kind of reality would be the case if what you've been exploring doesn't have an existence? What could that mean? Well, it's not an aspect of being. It's not one of the 1, 2, 3s.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Neanderthal man. But hang on a second. What's also the class of non-existence that doesn't have a true being, but is just a matter of opinion? Belief. What if the subject was, it's all relative? What if it was just a personal perspective? Or a belief? Or an opinion? Or a shadow? Or an appearance? Or an imitation? So any one of these you can use to guide your imitation on if understanding. Hey, let's give an example. Let's say you wanted to explore beauty. I like to pick out beauty. What if beauty is an aspect of reality? But what if beauty was in the eye of the beholder? Hang on a second. Isn't that saying it's relative to your own perspective or opinions or belief or the shadows or your appearance or your imitation of your earliest teachers? Have we got another thing to put in here? As belief is to understanding, so too the second half of the dialectic is to the first half of the dialectic. What does that mean? That means everything in this, all of these things are negative. Everything in belief category is negative, harmful, sadistic, death and destruction, cruel, debate, prejudice, stagnant, sickness, love of opinions and conflict, debate bros, debate perverts.
Debate pervert.
So why do we have them? What's the point? Why not develop just understanding? What kind of a cruel, sadistic universe if there's this thing that only ever does bad things? And our purpose is to get rid of them as a human being or any intelligent species who has belief. Why? Animals don't have pathologos. We are the most cruel, sadistic species ever to walk the planet. We are. No other animal treats the other members of its species like this. No other animal destroys its planet the way we do. Enslaves its population under fucking capitalism, or competition, or conservatism, or religion. No other species treats itself so cruelly. Why does it exist? Why can't we just have the excellence? Why have debate if we can just have dialectic? If we are here to master the skill of time, the skill of exploring ideas through times, outside of time, it's all at once. It's the apprehension of the whole in two or mind and recognition of the self in itself as one. That's the 1, 2 of the 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Understanding is the 3 that we are here to learn. that we can only learn through time. By exploring it step by step in the way we get to do with other people. If you find some good ones out there. And hopefully the more people who watch this channel, the more good ones there'll be. Hooray.
Win, 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 win.
This is win, 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 win for us. So if that's our function, the function of all intelligent species who have woken up to self-reflection can think, what are we doing here? Killing everyone? For profit and sex and enslavement and power? Nah. Or the highest functioning is understanding. That's a dialectic, isn't it? That's what Socrates was going on about every day and demonstrating every day, and why he kicked so much ass. And Homer demonstrated it's the same dialectic that's needed to solve the problems. I don't know what the new movie that's coming out, The Odyssey, is going to be like. But if it's anything like the original Homer, the Iliad, with Achilles with Brad Pitt, then it's going to be garbage. Why? Because the point of Homer's text was to demonstrate the dialectic applied to removing human problems. Now, we haven't read, well, we're only now getting the accurate translation of the Odyssey. So, first of all, the only decent translation of those texts has been done by someone who's gone through this process, Juan Balboa and the Balboas. So, whatever source material, and again, he's my favorite director, so, you know, standards are quite, well, whatever material the, what's his name? The guy who's doing the Odyssey. Of the Hollywood directors, he's my favorite, but again, the bar is low. Odyssey movie film by Christopher Nolan. Okay, so he's my, you know, of the material that I've got to, yeah, he's my favorite, but it's going to be garbage. Speaking of garbage, I got a spam caller. Suggested spam. I'm not picking up then. Why? Because the material isn't accurate. It's supposed to depict, well, what we're doing here. But of course, you can't read it unless the translator has gone through it. Otherwise, the translator is going to project his own problems onto it. He doesn't learn to read in the way we're reading. So what? Well, hang on a second. If to master the dialectic and fully apprehend and learn how to contemplate ideas is the dialectic, but the dialectic has 8 categories, these 4 applied to what is, and these 4 applied to what isn't, we need something to point to, in our experience or reflection at least, about what happens when an idea isn't. In other words, we still have the concept of beauty, but it's not in existence. It's not a transpersonal thing. If we can pull from our reading and reflection with friends the material for this, which is exactly what this is, this big thing here is what we pulled from the text. What can we pull from for exploring the necessary other side of things? What kind of a thing would beauty be if it's not? Have you ever heard the expression, beauty is in the eye of the beholder? Beauty is a matter of perspective. Some people think tough love is beautiful, or Nazi uniforms are beautiful, or Donald Trump is the most beautiful. Hey, is that wrong? Is that right? No. Is it stupid and wrong and garbage? Yes. Are they pointing to any universal true standards that they've apprehended through true philosophy? Or philodianoi, love of understanding? No. That's why it's only harm all the time. It's only scams and murder. For fun and profit. Sadism. It gives us its higher purpose that it serves is giving us the realm, the perspective, the experience to draw from to fill in the other half of the dialectics that we are here to master, to return from mind to mind and through mind to self again. Our purpose. If we recognize that, and we teach not only how to solve problems, but what do we say? You can't solve problems unless you are seeking a dialectic, because it's only when you are trying to master the highest, most intelligible activities that you surface your blocks. If your goal is to become a nice Jew or Christian or Mormon and wear your magic underpants and do soaking,
Goons of gooners.
you'll never have to surface your crazy Mormon beliefs and your early Mormon teachers and understand where you got your Mormon bullshit from and where they got it from. You can be content in your problems. In other words, in order to surface our problems, we have to be mastering this. So therefore, at school, not only can we teach how to recognize and solve human problems, we can teach the actual meaning of belief, its reason for existence. All of the things in here are bad, but it gives us what self isn't. It shows us, hey, if we deviate from self, if we do not demand Platonic philosophers, Hellenic people, to be in charge of our species as politicians, spiritual authorities, and in charge of our economics and institutions, we will always and only get bad things. If that was 1,000 years ago, that would be true. If it was 1,000 years in the future, it would be true. If it was 1,000 light years away, it would be true. If it was 1,000 galaxies away, it would be true. If it was in a different multiverse, it would be true. The understanding and solution to all human problems, or problems of intelligence, is this. And we can show in any idea that we explore how that's the case. If beauty or justice or truth was just a matter of opinion, just a personal belief, just your perspective that sexism is just or racism is beautiful, and the shadows that you are taking in your appearance and imitating from your teachers, if that was the case, it's always going to be harmful and bad. The thing is, you'll be able to demonstrate it to your friends, to your partner, to your friends at the coffee shop, to yourself if you struggle with this, to any galaxy, any species, at any time, in any reincarnation or level of reality you find yourself in. That's the purpose belief serves. This half of the dialectic, with the dialectic as the mastery of understanding, we're here to fulfill, to master. Therefore, it's all relative, turns out, after this kind of reflection through bringing through using analogy to bring the parts of the text together to see its order and see the relationships, to see the ordering of the parts hierarchically. Well, you can take these and arrange them more hierarchically if you like. See the order and relations of the parts within and across the sets. We can use analogy to see the missing parts to find the puzzles to solve. We can therefore take those parts to do this dialectic. That's the structure you can follow. There's the sameness that the expertise would look to. There's the model. That's what dialectic is. That's where you could just do it. And you can have fun wondering why it would be true and why it's so useful and why it's profound and why you need to do both sets of 4. But also, in doing so, you will surface your problems that you can then relate to solve them. And it might turn out that once you master the dialectic on your problems, you might find out that every problem you have falls into this realm. And now you might know why. So there's the activity. How are we for time? Okay. So, have fun. Next time, we might go into this one a little bit more. Okay, as you do this, so you got something to do, you got an activity to do, you got some fun to do, and as you go, have a notebook or app and take notes of the words, states of mind, the images, the stories, put in objects. Does any objects come to mind? Got objects in there? What do the words sound like? Are there any voices that are familiar? Where do you feel it in the body? Are there images? Are there stories? Is there a drama? Are there any objects that come to mind? Where do you feel it in the body? Can you use analogy? Can you use analogies to say what they're like? Likeness, what are they like? What's it feel like? Images, stories, drama, objects. Any key phrases that come up. Any distractions, tangents, or fantasies. That's in the same category, so we'll put them together in the same category here. Take note of these as you practice this. Collect them, and the next time we will explore what we can do with them to address the humanness aspect. As you perfect your mastery of truth, which may or may not illuminate higher states of consciousness, insights, experiences. Hey, they might be, you might just not be recognizing it because they might be subtle. But also, you will have that humanness. You'll have the counterattack. Everything we've been learning about from Harry coming up. Also, this gives you a reason to go back through the text. To fill out the analogy. Are there any categories that we haven't put on the board? By the way, if Joseph is demonstrating the dialectic, can you also take your understanding of this structure and see it in the way that he is guiding the dialogue? And by the way, if the author, as we said to our new friend today, is a master dialectician, can you see the text itself? So not just the parts, the individual conversations, but the whole of the text. Can you see this dialectical structure?
They're secretly turned on by it.
And secretly, are you turned on by
All
it?
checks out.
Does it all check
It's
out?
not being crazy. It's called reaching a higher sense of being.
And it's not crazy. It's a higher sense of being.
That's funny.
It's funny too.
Oh my fuck.
Oh my fuck. So funny. So, give us your reason to read it a second time. So, you can fill out this. You can find, remember the truth. What have we got? We've got the The triad, the true, or the truth, the false, and the true, or better put, because it's under the realm of truth, the greater, the lesser, and the principle. So you can go back and fill in the principal terms. These are all a bit thick. That's what she said.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
Sorry, that was a bad joke. And so on. I gave you one. As personal development is to belief stagnation, as to understandings, development, pregnancy, and midwifery of problems in true human development. You can fill out the rest. You can take these and your own, find the missing parts, maybe some of the equivalents aren't given, solve the puzzle, and then do, not just then, and at the same time, why not? The dialectic. But also, take notes of these clues. And then maybe next time, we will see how we can use the dialectic in that higher class of dialectic philosophical midwifery to address these human problems and blocks that you face. Because it's not just informative, it's supposed to be transformative. True education, true learning, the true human purpose, the meaning of life is transformative. In other words, clearing the blocks to your higher state of seeing, your higher state of consciousness, and your higher state of self. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
How poetic at the end. Take notes. Now, what have we got? Words, sounds. What do the words sound like? Are they voices that are familiar? States of mind. What's it like? Feeling states. Where do you feel it in the body? Can you use analogies to talk about what it's like? Images, stories, drama, objects, key phrases, key terms that come up. We'll put key terms, key phrases, and key terms. Hey, what does Harry keep calling Aaliyah? Weirdo. Did Aaliyah say that she liked that? No. Does he do it anyway? So one of the key terms that might help Harry understand his problem is the idea of weirdo. What do you call yourself? You call yourself a weirdo? Stupid head? Numbnuts?
Bull testicles. Bull testicles.
Bull testicles? Distractions, tangents, fantasies. That distract you. So these stories can come up as a tangent or a distraction or a fantasy. It doesn't have to be distracting you, can be drawing you in. Take notes of them. You need to collect the clues. Just as we collected the terms in this mega analogy, you have to collect your terms. It's not a blame game. Don't be ashamed ever. No shame ever. There's a reason why you're here, and there's a reason why you have these things. These are predictable. This is expertise. If you have your soul who has gone through the reincarnations you've gone through and was born into the family you were born into, at the time it was, at the level of development of the planet we're at, in the culture you are in the religion you're in, you will have these things. So everything you have is a perfect representation of all the forces upon your soul to this point. That's karma. That's how they define karma. Only we understand its nature. So it's never, no blame, never any blame, never any punishment. That's right out the door. That's the sadistic functioning of idiot believers. Never punishment, never blame, never shame. Only curiosity, openness, and a Sherlock Holmes hat on our head as we surface these clues. You can't solve the puzzle unless you leave Baker Street and you go to the crime scene and you collect the clues, and then you can solve the puzzle. You are currently in the clue collecting stage. Now, what have we been seeing all the way through the text? Everything you're being asked to do about this text, apply it to your own dreams. That's the third axiom. What are the three axioms we have to accept to play this game? Just as you have to accept certain axioms to do math or to drive your car, so too you have to accept certain axioms to play this higher game. What are the axioms? Or the necessary rational beliefs you trust temporarily until you see how they're true? You have to accept the axiom that A, problems are inherently solvable. B, so that's literally the A side of our analogy. So hopefully we can understand how and why that's the case now. So it's transforming from an axiom for you as you go through this process. Excellence is reachable, that's B, so we're seeing that as well. But also the other thing you've been asked to do all the way along the series, that both are providentially communicated to us in our dreams. These are necessary, rational, trusting in the rulership of knowledge and understanding, nous and dianoia, needed to follow the logos and participate in this dialectic. So in other words, dreams become, as the text is, something you and your friend or partner can reflect on as that shared mean term. So the master of the dialectic, or the self, or the logos, is somehow communicating to us. We can reflect on our dreams, and we can practice our dialectic on unpacking the meaning of the dreams, and practice midwifery when we see our puzzles and questions. So this dream analysis is the greatest, or one of the greatest activities that we can practice this, demonstrate what we've defined as the ideal relationship. Hang on a second. 3 axioms. For each of the categories of the dialectic, wasn't there 3 things you can do? Talk about the subject, what's true of it, what are the necessary conditions for it to be as it is? What can you never say about the subject, what's false about it? And what's both, to show the limitations, or the extent, or the reach, or the specifics. What were the 3 axioms? In other words, you need these 3 things to play the game. You have to accept axiomatically to play the human game, the true human quest, the real thing we're here for, that our problems, our truth is reachable. There are the necessary conditions to reach truth. Transpersonal truth in understanding mind and self. 1, 2, 3.
2, 3.
Thank you, caveman. We have to accept the principle that we can remove what's false through the pathologos. And we have to accept the principle that both are communicated through our dreams, showing where you are at and where you are limited in your development. Therefore, as you do this, look for how you might be getting guidance in your doing of this, mastering what's true. Also, as your activity today is to collect as much clues in your Sherlock Holmes notepad about this stuff, which are all representations of what's false, you might as well also look for the words, voices, how those words sound, states of mind, feeling states, express them in analogy. Where do you feel it in the body? Images, stories, dramas, objects or metaphors, key phrases, key terms, distractions, tangents, fantasies, that's the drama in your dream. In other words, see how you can find these things in your dreams tonight. You can record it as soon as you wake up, hit the record button on audio before you do anything else, or if you want to move very quickly, set your alarm to go off in every 90-minute to 2-hour increments, because that's where we have REM sleep. So we'll get about 4 or 5 dreams a night, and if you do that, you can hit record and you can memorize them even quicker. Those are the 2 options you have. You can do it if you want. You move quickly like a rogue or slowly like a paladin, up to you. And of course, if you have someone like Aaliyah or Joseph in your life, you can move even quicker. Have even more fun. Get out of the crap game and into the good game. So there you go. Got your analogy to do. Got your parts to find. Practice it on the dialectics and take notes about those things that come up that block you. That's the two parts of the human game. And hey, see how this is expressed in your dream. Give it a go, give it a shot, see if your dreams help you, and see if you can get any of these things from your dream tonight as well. It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
That's what I said.
It's not being crazy. It's, well, that's not true because now we're getting into extreme Jordan
That's funny.
And it is funny.
bull testicles.
And she spit on him also.
And she spit on them also.
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I
Okay, enjoy maxing.
I guess.
Yes.
Hubba hubba.
I have a sickness for the thickness.
Goons of gooners. Gooner.
Okay, enough of the sound drops. So, there we go. The significance of analogy for understanding and mastering the text and giving us what we need to do the other two things, to do the dialectic and surface our problems. Have fun. Hope you have a whole bunch of terms with you for next time. I hope you have fun reflecting on your dreams, and I really hope you find someone like Joseph or Aaliyah in your life to play this game with. Remember? Bless me, it's more fun with friends. And you move faster with friends as well. And the next time, we'll see what we can do with those clues. And then, maybe we can finish the dialogue. And then, there's another section in this book. This book's a goddamn banger, don't you think? Yes. Thank you for joining me. Once again, as we said to our friend, you can find a PDF to the text below. You can buy the book. You can find it online. You can join our Discord, and you can meet people, explore ideas, etc. And also get a notification when we go live. If you are enjoying what we do here, you can support the channel by donating if you want to and have the means. I don't get any money at all for doing this. What else? Follow along on Twitch. When we get an average of 3 viewers, then I can get affiliate, and that means something. I think you can choose whether you watch this audio only on your app. I don't know. I'm not going to get ads, obviously, but maybe it does something. Maybe I can go to TwitchCon and you can catch up and we can do dreams and chat in TwitchCon. Who knows? So follow on Twitch, blah, 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 blah. Enough talks. Thanks for joining me. Have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.